Hello and welcome to the Fertility Podcast. I'm not going to give numbers anymore. If this is your first listen, I've made over 180 something episodes, so please do have a look through your podcast app if that's how you found me, or via thefertilitypodcast.com where there's a nifty search box and you can put in the word for a condition or a test maybe you've had, or just general male fertility, whatever you want. Hopefully you will find it, because I've been podcasting now for over 4 years. And if you've been following me for a while, well, what I'm doing now is I'm mixing things up a bit. There's lots of different opportunities happening with the Fertility Podcast, more of which I will be sharing. But what this episode is the first in a new series that I'm calling Meet the Makers, as I find more and more of you making your business as a result of your fertility struggles. I wanted to capture that and tell your story. So this is the first in, like I say, what is going to be a variety of stories. You're doing all sorts of different things, and I find it fascinating as to what we pull out of something that is awful, and how we make something good out of a dreadful situation, and how we find our tribe as a result. And that is the key thing with all of this. Wherever you're at right now, the fact you found this podcast means that you're having a look around. You're probably looking on various social platforms, and let me tell you that in the 4.5 years I've been a part of this TTC community, I can't believe the number of people that I've met, the diversity of people that I've met, and the amazing people that I've met. So I really hope that you too will find something good out of this shitty situation. Do be sure to keep up to date with everything going on with me. You can follow me at FertilityPoddy on Twitter and Instagram. And if you get yourself to the fertilitypodcast.com and pop your email there, then I can keep you up to date, not only on new episodes, but on what's happening next with the Fertility Podcast, because there's big changes coming and I'd love to keep you up to date. And I don't really have your emails. I never ask. And I was talking to someone the other day and they were like, why aren't you asking people for their emails? So this is me asking you for your email. Go to thefertilitypodcast.com, and at the bottom of the homepage, if you give me your email, then what you get in return is a little bit of meditation if you're going through IVF. If that's not where you're at, do not fear, because there's going to be some other goodies added to that to make you sign up to my email. Sign up to my email. I've been sat in the garden. I think I might have a bit of sunstroke. Now, before you hear from my makers, who are Sarita and Tim from Bud Fertility, which are awesome supplements, and these guys do a whole load of work helping you understand your fertility. They've got this A to Z guide. They share recipes and they share our stories. They're really prominent in the TTC community and are just a lovely couple. They're going to be talking about why Bud Fertility came to be. But before you hear from them, here's a little note from my sponsors who make this podcast possible. You'll know that I talk a lot about support on this podcast, and that's why I'm really chuffed to be working with one of my sponsors, Fertility. They offer extra fertility benefits at no extra cost. And when you start your treatment with Fertility, you'll benefit from support and guidance 7 days a week with your very own Fertility advisor. Plus, there's an app to keep you in the know every step of your fertility journey. And you know what? You pay the same as you would at a clinic. Find out more at apricity.life/podcast. Another of my sponsors is International Andrology, who specialise in diagnosing and treating male infertility. Around 50% of infertility issues are male factor, and all too often, men aren't even evaluated at the start of a fertility journey, which might result in unnecessary treatments, costs, and disappointment. International Andrology is one of the few specialist clinics in the UK offering a holistic approach to increase your chances to conceive naturally or via the IVF route. As well as treating the underlying causes of male infertility, their doctors have some of the highest success rates in microsurgical sperm retrieval. So, if you're looking for a true specialist to assist you on your fertility journey, visit london-andrology.co.uk today and do mention the Fertility Podcast. So I'm sat in the members bar of the Royal Festival Hall with the lovely Sarita and Tim from Bud Fertility. Thank you for letting me in on your membership.
It's a great pleasure. Lovely to see you.
We were just saying how nice it is to actually be in London looking at the river.
Yes, it's the best view in town, I think.
It's like a membership worth having when you've got a good view.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
and it's very affordable. So this should be an ad for the South Bank, really.
So we're here to talk about your story and your business, really, after having your own experience of infertility and then actually creating a business as a result of it. Just start by explaining the point of realising that maybe the family planning was getting a little bit more complicated than you'd expected.
Probably about 10 years ago, at that point, we were blessed to have our 2-year-old little girl. We were on that path of thinking, time to have another child. And it didn't happen. And we ended up in a situation where we were following many tests and procedures, a situation where we were told it's a secondary unexplained infertility was our...
How old were you?
At the time I was 30, so 37 I think at the time.
So were you being called geriatric?
Oh yes. Oh absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and some of the reasons were, you're just getting on, you're getting old. But at the same time around me I could see lots of my mum friends all having number 2, and then some of those then moving on and having had number 2, pregnant with number 3. And so, yeah, I pretty much knew that it was very possible, it just wasn't happening for us. And that whole experience took approximately 4 years. And it was a time where we pretty much internalised everything that went on. There was no avenue to talk to anyone. We just, my husband Tim and I, just sharing with each other.
And Tim, just to kind of get your viewpoint at that point, I mean, as Sarita's just said, there's not really anywhere open at that point to kind of talk about it. And as a guy, was it something that you would talk about with your male friend, or was it something more that the two of you just spoke about to each other?
I don't think I talked to anybody about it, to be honest. The one good thing is that once you're in that world and you start talking to the professionals, that's very comforting because they're very supportive and very understanding. But outside that environment, it was definitely very difficult, definitely.
So where did you go for your information? Apart from the professional kind of conversations that you're having?
I would say I would look around, and every time I heard of a friend or a friend of a friend that had fallen pregnant, I would be finding out, what did they do? What happened? Acupuncture, apparently a friend was struggling. When I say struggling, it was taking her a few months. She didn't get pregnant straight away and it took her 3 months. But she did acupuncture in that time. So I got the number of the lady, and that's what I started doing. Homeopathy, tried homeopathy. And then in terms of IVF, which was the route that we eventually went down, we didn't have any recommendations. We didn't know where to go. In fact, we Googled it, if you remember, Tim.
Yes, we did.
We Googled best fertility doctor in London.
Yes. We tried one route, one particular clinic, and we found it wasn't right for us. And luckily we made that decision because we went somewhere else. We went to Guy St Thomas's, and it was a new world. It was like the most amazing people that told us everything we needed to know. And interestingly enough, we went to an induction evening.
Yes.
I think called induction, like an introduction evening. And all of a sudden, you walk into a room, and there's probably 50, 60 couples, look exactly like you. Slightly edgy, slightly nervous or whatever, but you see a community, and we saw it, but didn't get much chance to talk with it, but it was very encouraging. And so I think with IVF and clinics, you have to pick the right place. You have somewhere you feel comfortable.
I mean, the fact that you chose to not go to somewhere and go to somewhere else is a big part, because I think often people feel a little bit like rabbit in the headlights, and especially if they've been eligible for funding and they're told that's the place, then that's the place. We didn't ask any questions because we were fortunate in that we had funding. Obviously, it's different if you're self-funding, but it is still your decision ultimately, isn't it? Like you say, if you're not comfortable, And you take that time to reevaluate.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
So as far as lifestyle, kind of at the point where you're trying, how aware are you of lifestyle changes that you can make, maybe with your nutrition and your health, as far as improving, your chances?
So back then, it was again a case of talking to friends that I was very fortunate. I had one friend who was very organised. She had no trouble conceiving, but I distinctly remember as she was planning, she said, right, myself, my husband, we're not drinking anymore. We are eating differently, and that's exactly and exercising. So we did just that, particularly when we were struggling, particularly when it didn't happen as we thought it would.
It was like general change and shift, but it was not very specific. So in terms of nutrition and diet, we needed to eat better and everything, but we weren't really focusing on specific foods or ingredients or vitamins. But it's you have to do something to kickstart, and I think by making a mental shift, that automatically increases your chances of conceiving, I think, because you're doing something positive, you're taking initiative, you're looking after yourself, and that has a knock-on effect, I think.
It's kind of the control element, isn't it? You feel that you're, like you say, you're being proactive and that you are making these things hopefully work for the ultimate end result.
Yes, that's exactly it, yeah.
And so you had successful treatment.
Yes, so we then, having been diagnosed with unexplained infertility, we were told that we could continue naturally or we could take the route of IVF, at which point my age, I was now closer to 40, and we had to make the decision that actually we're just going to give it a go, because we don't want to look back and think, what if? So anyway, our second round of IVF was amazingly a success, and we were blessed to have twins. So very fortunate to come out of that whole time with something so positive.
So your twins are now 6,
yes,
right?
That's right.
And so the decision to then focus your world onto this fertility space and create Bud Fertility, which is what we're here to talk about, at what point did that happen?
Probably about 3 years ago, I think. So once all the dust has settled a little bit, I've been working in this kind of area in my day job, and we had some quiet time, and
Quiet time with twins?
but at work.
Maybe you did.
quiet time at work, and we'd learnt a lot about nutrition. We worked with some interesting people, and I came across it as something that I felt passionate about. That I could, whether we're doing a product or whatever it is, I felt very. If you go through this experience, it kind of stays with you. So it just was just kind of drifted into it. Just kind of thought, well, let's start a blog. Let's build some forums, which we still haven't launched, but are ready to go. And let's also look at products, because we've met nutritionists. And then I went to the fertility show about 2 years ago, and I met a gynecologist from Harley Street. And I talked to him. I was introduced to him, and I was worried about what he would say about us wanting to create a supplement. And because I thought he would be like, well, that's all rubbish, and you don't need to do that because we've got science to do, hard science and surgery and whatever. And he was exactly the opposite. He said, no, this is exactly the right thing to do, and in that you have to work on every aspect of your being, your physical, emotional, chemical, nutritional, and all those incremental changes add up to quite a lot. And I thought I was very encouraged by that, and that kind of gave us the insight to say, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this. So that was it, really. That's how it came about.
Whilst we're talking about the kind of product creation, you and I were just talking about the product look and design, and I noticed Bud, I think, on Instagram first, and it instantly stood out as something kind of cool and lifestyle and not necessarily girly, which I know obviously you have products for men and women, and I thought it's a pretty hard thing to do, because all too often there is that gender specific type marketing activity. So just tell me a bit about that thought process behind your whole kind of brand, I suppose.
Well, firstly, it's a male and female issue, and obviously something that I personally have lived through. And I think if it's difficult to find if it was difficult at that time to find information for the female member of the partnership, it was more difficult for men. I mean, people just don't talk about this, and the last thing a man wants to do is go and have a sperm test. I mean, that is like the worst thing you can possibly, it's like getting detention or something. It's like, so I wanted to try and make it equally accessible to men. It just made complete sense having lived through it, and yes, and also looking at it from a kind of aesthetic point of view. I thought a lot of the content out there was very dated. It was very bland visually, the way it's written. It was obvious to create something a bit more interesting, and that's what we strive to do every day.
And what I first kind of got as far as information about Bud was your kind of A to Z, which is brilliant because instantly you're explaining all the different elements. And do you think that's part of being on the journey, that you were very keen to get that whole picture out there for people?
Yes, yeah, as a kind of one-stop, pick up a little journal, little book that covers not everything to do with fertility, but key, important, relevant facts, and also, and going back to what Tim said, in a fun, engaging, now way, rather than very sort of staid and clinical, and yes.
Some of this has been affected by the rise of Instagram in that time as well. So I think that has been also a catalyst. And as I said, in my day job, I kind of work in this world a little bit. So it was a very positive avenue to work down. Nice, bright content that people are going to want to read. And I think with the A to Z, it's like if you can whiz through it, like, I don't know, you're sitting at home waiting for your food to cook or whatever. If you pick up one thing from that makes a difference, the letter B, whatever that might be, then that's good.
What is the letter B?
It's
balls, I
actually
think. Balls. There you go. You see. Okay. And so we tried to. But that's it. Just one single element, one tip or one piece of information that you think, oh, that's relevant to me. So, yeah.
So, what would you describe Bud's ethos as being? If you had to explain in the lift to somebody what Bud was all about, because obviously it's a supplement, it's a fertility supplement, but in the bigger picture,
and it's more, yes, and that's it. We feel for us, it is more than that. It is we have our hashtag Let's Talk About Fertility. And that is exactly it, because we didn't, for just over 4 years, we didn't talk about fertility to anyone, and came out of that slightly scarred, I would say, thinking, we need to talk about it. Why don't we talk about it? And that's where littlebud.com came about, with the idea that we have a website that covers nutrition, recipes, people's stories, people's journeys, and more. We want to do more to that website. Actually, we have more content to add, but to talk about trying to conceive, particularly for those that are struggling.
Can I just say that one of the things that I still get a kick out of, and what really motivates me, is trying to help people get pregnant. Yeah. That is it. So if we get response and we're saying, "Oh, I've got pregnant," and we've been taking Bud, we like to think it's contributed to our pregnancy. That makes us very, very happy. It's just that we've been through that, and it still lives with you. So, one is to help people become pregnant, and secondly, on that process or during that process, to give them information to help them along the way and support them. And whatever the outcome is, that's it.
So let's do the science bit about the products. Just talk a bit about what makes Bud different with your male and your female range.
So when we started looking at, we started looking at adaptogens and adaptogens, right, which are ingredients, natural ingredients, food-based ingredients. The most famous of which, the most popular of which, is maca. And maca has been through a bit of a boom recently, and it's something we started researching, and something that we really liked. We thought, well, this has interesting science. It's got white papers written on it, and So we went to a nutritionist, Dr. Adam Cunliffe from London South Bank University, to talk to him about what we were thinking, and he supported our idea, and he took maca as a key ingredient, and then he built around that all the other essential minerals, vitamins and nutrients, and then added in some of his own as well. So it really was a kind of, a 6-month process of going backwards and forwards and working out what we're going to put within these formulas. Maca is in both our formulas, male and female, and as I just mentioned, each formula, so if there are Department of Health guidelines for publicly available, which say if you are trying to conceive, these are the vitamins and nutrients that you should be taking. So of course all those are included, and then we've just built on top of those with maca. We've also included ashwagandha, muirapama and pycnogenol. All of which have scientific papers written about them, and that's how it came about.
And where are you with the whole folic acid element? Because I'm learning more and more about the purer version of folic acid being what we really need, not just the I know that's a bit of a sciencey way to go, but it is a bit of a bone of contention that more and more nutritionists are talking to me about, that we don't really have the understanding because of what we can do, what our bodies can do about turning on or off to it.
Yes, yeah, and again, this is following our work with our clinical nutritionist. The recommendation was to go with the naturally occurring form of folate, and that's in our female supplements. That's what we've included, which will give the recommended dose of 400 milligrams of micrograms of folic acid.
Because I feel in the time I've been in this space, which is just over 4 years now, not only are we much more open to talk about it, which is brilliant, and that's what this podcast is all about, but we're so much more informed. And I think as a creator of a product, I'm sure that you know that you're speaking to a probably much more educated audience than you guys were when you were starting out, and people are hungry for more, and they want good quality product, but
yes.
Good quality advice,
yes.
don't they?
Yes, absolutely.
I think, as I said to you earlier, people who understand nutrition have responded very well to our formulas. However, we do get feedback, largely positive, but we also get feedback saying, oh, what about X, Y, and Z? And of course, when we started out on these formulas, we never thought they were going to be the final formulas. We believe they're very close, but we're always open to feedback and people saying, we would like to include this, and I've read about that. So it's a kind of ongoing process, but so far so good.
And Bud has just recently, we're speaking at the start of 2019, you've just launched a vegan product.
Oh, we have, yes.
Which is obviously exciting, as it is Veganuary, and there are more and more of us.
Absolutely, yes.
Not me, because my husband's a butcher, but there are more and more people who are living a vegan life, and I take my hat off. It's not something I could do. Is that something that's personally where you guys are at, or it's just you wanted to have that offering as well?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It was feedback. Again, it was. We actually went to Manchester for a trade show, and people said, "Oh, we won't touch anything unless it's vegan." And so we did, and now we're the only vegan supplement in the category. So it's worked out very well for us.
For anybody that's just starting out, because it is overwhelming knowing where to start and what to do. I mean, what stage would you say to start taking a supplement? I know that you're not doctors, so this is from your kind of obviously experience now as product developers, but what's the kind of advice that Bud offers?
Well, so we talk about baby body ready, and we talk about what I did from my experience, and for Bud what we would say is prior to when you're in that starting out stage, that's when you start taking your extra supplements. That's
Yeah, so it's not really when you start thinking, oh, it's not working. And actually this also follows Department of Health guidelines in that if you're thinking about, you make that much choice in life, so now we're ready or we're thinking or we'd like to, in theory you should be starting 3 months before. That gives your body a chance to improve. And certainly in terms of male sperm motility and quality, it's been proven that you can actually make a difference over a 3-month period by changing your lifestyle and being healthier.
And as a guy, how open are guys, would you say, in doing this? Is it normally that the other half, well, this is if we're talking about a heterosexual couple, but the woman is going to get involved and then she brings the man along, or are you seeing men being more proactive?
In terms of nutrition?
In terms of taking supplements?
So it is, I imagine 9 times out of 10 it is the female who is going to instigate that, and men are very good at being told what to do, and I think it is emotionally challenging for both male and female if you do get to the point where you are thinking this is not quite working. So I think from a male point of view it's seen as very positive and very easy and very accessible, because as I said, some of these things can be fixed. You can improve your chances by looking after your health, and you really don't want to try and avoid having to go too far down the line before you have success. So, yeah, I don't think it's a problem for men.
Nobody wants to walk through the doors of a fertility clinic, so the more that you can know and do, and that's part of what I'm doing, and that's why we're talking, it's to get that message that, like you say, you can hold things a bit and do some work on yourselves, like baby body ready, as you've just said.
Yes.
Good luck with everything. It's a
very
really
much.
exciting year for 2019.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we will be talking more. And at the moment, Buddies stops in the UK, in Holland and Barrett.
Correct. Yes, that's right.
I know that there are plans, international plans, aren't there?
Yes.
Watch this space.
Watch this space. So at the moment, you're only available in the UK for people listening, because we've got people listening all over. But that's not the end of the story.
No. This is the beginning. Yes. We're on a mission. Yes.
Alrighty. The show notes for this episode are... I could start singing my outros. Definitely won't start singing my outros. The show notes for this episode are thefertilitypodcast.com/Bud Fertility. And I'll put a link in there for you to use. If you go to littlebud.com and use the code FP20, you'll get 20% off your order, because Sarita and Tim are so nice. They wanted to make sure you get something for listening to them talking about why they do what they do. I hope you found this episode interesting. If you are listening and you are making, then please do get in touch. Email Natalie at the Fertility Podcast. Please put maker in the subject matter and we can talk more. And the other thing you can do whilst you're emailing, which is something I launched on the podcast the other week, was me asking you to tell me more about you. It's called A Day in Your Life. And what I want to see if I can get you doing is recording a little snippet from your day. Maybe you're having treatment. Maybe you've just been for some acupuncture. Maybe you've just been for coffee with a mate and they said something that really peed you off. Give me a little insight, 1 to 2 minutes. There should be in your smartphone a voice recorder, or you can download one, and then email it to Natalie at thefertilitypodcast.com. And then you'll be heard on this very podcast. What do you reckon? I think you should go for it. Thank you as always for all your support, and until the next time,